Okay, welcome to class today, and I'm happy to have anyone or everyone in my class. It's great to be with you. Always remember as we do our class that we're going to be doing different things with our body, and sometimes those poses or positions aren't going to be comfortable and may not feel good. If there's any pain or if you just feel like your alignment is off, you just can back off and come back into the pose later maybe, or you can try and find your own alignment in the pose just using the instructions that I give you. But it's more important to listen to your body than it is to listen to my instruction. So with that said, let's begin our practice. So let's settle in to our practice. You can be seated, legs crossed, or you can be lying on your mat, flat on your back. If you're seated, just make sure that your shoulders are comfortably away from your ears and that they're kind of going back and down, and settle down into your pelvis. If you're lying down on the mat, just make sure that your shoulder blades are flat against the earth. You can have your knees pointed up, feet flat on the floor if that's comfortable, to avoid any compression in the lower back. And now begin to settle into your body and begin to settle into this present moment. You can scan your body for any tension and just notice it, breathe into it and exhale it away. Scan your body from your skull and top of your head all the way through, down your spine, through your legs, feet. And now notice where your mind is. Your mind might still be with your last activity, or it might be with some problem that you're trying to grapple with and find a solution. It might be with plans for the future. So just try to bring your mind now inward as we start to drop into our practice and into our bodies. And drop that swirling mind down into your body. You can help that by bringing your attention to your breath. So just a gentle awareness of your breath, noticing the inflow and the outflow through the nostrils, and the movement of the breath through the body. Notice the ease and effortlessness of breathing. Your body does your breathing for you. Notice when you inhale, there's a pause, and when you exhale, there's a slight pause. At the end of the exhale, your body is now welcoming in your new breath, your new inhale. So take that next inhale deep down into your belly. As you start to slow down your breath. You might feel an expansion on the inhale and a letting go on the exhale. And we'll do a short breathing practice. It's going to assist with making a deeper breath. So we're going to bring more oxygen into the body, and it's a 3-part inhale. So I'll explain that to you and then we can do it together. So you're going to be inhaling deep down into the belly and just take a third of the inhale and then pause. And then the next third of the inhale will fill up the rib cage and pause. And the final third of the inhale, you'll take the breath all the way up to the collarbones. Now in doing, and then there'll be a nice long exhale. In doing this, you don't want to cause any stress or tension in the body. So if it's too much, you can just back off and go back to your normal breathing. Really try to keep your shoulders relaxed. So you don't want to be tensing up the shoulders, especially as you bring that last part, that last third of the breath, filling up all the way up to the collarbones. So let's just do a nice normal breath, inhale and exhale. And on the next inhale, take the first third of the inhale down into the lower belly. Next third, opening into the chest and rib cage area. And then the final breath, all the way up to the collarbones. And then release on the exhale. Do that one more time. On the inhale down, the first third down, reaching down into the lower belly. Pause, inhale. Oh, the next third will come into the chest and rib cage. And then the final third, all the way up, filling up the whole torso. And exhale. And do that about 3 more times on your own breath cycle. Last time. Okay. If you had your eyes closed, you can open them. Come back to normal breathing. And see if you can just throughout the practice keep your inhales and exhales at equal length. So, and hopefully that little practice also has slowed down your breathing. So we're going to begin on our backs. Feet out to the width of the mat. The arms can come out to the sides, out to your, away from your body. And we're just going to do some gentle windshield wipers to warm up the pelvis and hips. So just take your knees over to the left and let the weight of gravity take them down towards the ground. You don't need to push it, just let the weight of gravity take them to where they're comfortable. Inhale, knees back up to center. Exhale, over to the right side. The opposite hip can start to come up off the mat. Inhale to center. Exhale, over to the other side. You might find them as you're relaxing. They're coming a little closer to the mat here. Inhale to center. Exhale to the opposite side. And on your own breath cycle, you can continue doing this lovely swaying of the knees from side to side. Warming up the hip joint, the pelvis, the lower back. Inhaling as you bring your knees to center and exhaling as they release over to the side. Two more rotations here. Shoulders relaxed, the back of the neck long. into center. You can bring your feet back into hip distance apart, remaining on the mat. And we're going to do some pelvic tilts here. So if you find your hip points do bony protrusions at the front of your hips, and as you flatten your back into the mat, you'll notice that the hip points move forward. So your pelvis is moving forward into a forward pelvic tilt. And then as you arch the lower back, your hip points are drawing towards your knees into a backward pelvic tilt. Just do this on your breath cycle again. As you arch your back, you're going to inhale. And as you flatten, exhale. And try to have the movement coming from the pelvis. So you don't want that exaggeration of the arch to be too strong. Just a nice lifting of the back as the pelvis moves back and forth. The whole spine will be oscillating like a little boat just bobbing up and down on the ocean waves. Two more rounds. And then you can come back to neutral, where there is a slight curve of the lower back. That's a normal, natural curve of the spine. Now we're going to do a sacrum clock. So this is a massage for the lower back and sacrum area. So once again, finding those hip points and the belly button, and you can take your fingers to the belly button, the top of the pubic bone, and to the two side hip points. You can have an imaginary marble. The lower belly is a face of a clock, so the sacrum clock. So have an imaginary marble in your belly button. And then you're going to roll that marble over to the right hip point, which is 3 o'clock. And then down to the top of the pubic bone, 6 o'clock. Across to the left hip bone, 9 o'clock. And back to the belly button, 12 o'clock. So going from belly button to hip point to pubic bone to opposite hip point. And once you get that nice, easy flowing motion, bring your attention to your back, your lower back and sacrum area. So you can have a little movement in the knees, but the movement is really coming from the pelvis, the back of the pelvis. Going in nice, really massaging across the lower back and sacrum. You can let it flow through your spine. Even your head can roll with the circles that you're making, and then come to center and reverse. And now you're going to the opposite hip bone, pubic bone, other hip bone, back up to your belly button. Taking that marble, rolling that marble around. Relax your shoulders. One more time in that direction, and then back to center. Once again with that slight curve in the lower back. Now we're actually going to do some toning of our abs, which is important to do. Our abdominals keep all our internal organs in place. So it's important to have some strength. It also, in those muscles, it also protects the lower back. So you can just bring your arms underneath the back of your head. So you've got them crossed at the back of your head. So you're in a really nice relaxed position. Your knees are still pointing up, feet flat on the floor. And inhale and exhale. And then bring that knee in towards your chest, the right knee in towards your chest on the inhale, and then toes pointed up as you exhale and push your heel forward towards the front of the room on the exhale, keeping the leg lifted up off the mat. Inhale as you bring the knee in. Exhale as you push the heel towards the front of the room, toes pointed up towards the ceiling. Inhale in towards the chest. And you can really start to feel your working of the right, this is a very deep abdominal muscle. You see if you can feel that muscle being activated, waking up that lower abdominal muscle on the right side. And the next time you extend your leg out, with the heel drawing towards the front of the room, toes pointed up towards the ceiling, just hold that. So the foot is a couple of inches off the floor, the leg's a couple of inches off. Just hold that, hover that leg. Really start to feel the extension and the activation of that lower right belly muscle. And then you can bring the knee in and place your foot on the mat. What I didn't suggest, but I will suggest for the next time for the left leg, is that you flatten that lower back in on the mat. And now we'll bring the left knee in towards the chest. And on the exhale, extend the leg, lengthen the leg out to the front of the room. Heel drawing towards the front of the room, toes pointed up. Inhale as you bring the knee in. Exhale, taking the leg out, extending it out. Inhale, knee into chest and into torso. Exhale, extend the leg out and see if you can start feeling the activation of the left lower belly muscles. Do this nice and slowly, 2 more times. Keep the shoulders relaxed. And then you can bring your left foot back to meet your right foot. Now we're just going to do some crunches. We're going to be working the outer abdominal muscles. And the best way to reach them is just take your feet up to the ceiling. Your legs don't have to be straight. Cross your feet. And you probably know that basic crunch. So we're going to be peeling the shoulders up off the mat. The elbows stay wide. And try to keep space between your chin and your chest, like an orange is between your chin and your chest as you rise up and then lower down. You really might be easier to feel these rectus abdominis muscles working as you start to flex those muscles. They're coming together as you lower down, as you raise your head and shoulders. Working those muscles. So we're going to do 3 more. Keeping the space between the chin and the chest. And the elbows staying wide. And then you can bring your feet down onto the mat. And the final set of abdominal muscles, there's 3 sets. We're going to work the outside muscles, the obliques. So keeping your hands behind your head and your elbows wide, just going to start to peel the right shoulder and elbow up off the mat, bringing it towards the outside of the left, towards the outside of the left knee, and then back down to the mat. And then we'll do it on the opposite side. Keeping that space between chin and chest as we now work our obliques, our side muscles. They all work together, they're knitted together to work as a group. Just continue on. Do 2 more on each side. And you can really feel as it's really feeling the activation and waking these muscles up. Okay, now you can come to still, come to center. You can stretch your legs out. Point your toes, take your arms up and over your head and do a nice full body stretch here. Now you can flex your feet, toes pointed up towards the ceiling. Breathe into your body. All filling up the whole body with all the energy of your inhale. And then relaxing on the exhale. Do a little side stretch here. So take your hands over to the right side and then hold your left wrist with your right hand and then walk your feet a little bit over to the right side. And you'll find you're going to be stretching all the left side of your body here. The left outer leg, up through the left side, under the left arm, and all the way up the left arm. Breathe into that side body. Opening up the left side ribs. And then come back to center, and then we'll walk our hands over to the left, holding the right wrist in the left hand. Walk our feet over to the left. Actually, you can cross your right ankle over your left ankle here. Get even more of a stretch up the side, leg, hip, torso, up under the arm, and all the way up through the right arm. Breathe, taking your breath all the way into the right side of the body. Opening up the ribs. And then come back to center. Bring your hands down to your side. Roll over onto your sides. And then use your hands to come up to sitting. You can cross your feet if that's comfortable for you. Or you can take them a little ways away if you can't really cross your feet. But we really want our sit bones to make contact with the earth. So lift your hips up a little bit and then drop your hips back down. See if you can take the padding away from each side buttock so that you can feel a little bit of contact of those sit bones with the earth. And the tailbone is like the taproot here. It's going to descend down into the earth as we rise up through the spine, all the way up through the crown of the head. So lifting through the crown of the head, the shoulders are up and back and away from the ears. Now you're going to take a nice inhale as you raise your hands up towards the ceiling. You can interlace your fingers. Inhale and then exhale. Just start to tilt over to the right side. Once again, stretching up the left side of the body. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale over to the left side. Inhale back to center. And we'll do that again. See if you can have your upper arms by your ears as you inhale. Extend up through the sides of the body. Exhale over to the right. You don't have to come too far. Just so your sit bones are still on the mat. The left sit bone is grounding down into the mat. Inhale back to center. And exhale over to the left side. So now keeping the right sit bone heavy on the mat. And lengthening all the way up through the right side body. Inhale to center. And now you can float your hands down towards the mat and then take them behind you. Interlace your fingers behind you. The knuckles are facing down. And draw your knuckles down towards the mat. It will help to open up the chest and widen through the collarbones. Notice the shoulder blades coming towards the spine. They're coming towards each other. And if you want a little bit of a back bend here, you can take your chin up towards the ceiling as you take your hands away from your body. And breathe into your chest. And back to center. Okay, so now we're going to do a simple twist. So begin by just starting to take your right hand to your left, your left hand to your right knee. And then your right hand can swing around behind you, finding the earth behind you. So you're already in a little bit of a twist with your shoulders here. So now we're going to start to move the inner body. So the inner lower belly starting to turn as you inhale. You're going to lengthen. Exhale, you're going to start turning to the right, rotating to the right. And then you can pause, inhale and lengthen up through the spine. And exhale, you can start to take your shoulders even a little bit further around to the right. Inhale and lengthen up through the crown of the head. And finally, if you want to look over your right shoulder, as you picture the twist from the base of the spine all the way up through to the base of the skull. Take some nice breaths here. Inhaling and lengthening, exhaling and releasing. One more inhale. And then you can unwind and unsqueeze around to center. You might feel a little bit different on the right side. Our bodies love to be squeezed and then released. So now take the right hand over to the left knee. Swing your left hand down around and find the ground behind you, preferably towards the spine, if you can get it that far around. Inhale as you lengthen through the crown of the head. Exhale as you start to bring the lower belly and the organs around to the left. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, rotating a little more, shoulders and chest. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale as you release, your head can look over your left shoulder. Once again, just picture that spine twisting like a spiral staircase from the base of the spine all the way up through the base of the skull. And release around to the center. Come back to stillness. And now take your right leg out at an angle. So whatever angle is comfortable for you. Put your toes facing upward and then bring your left, the sole of your left foot nestle into your right inner thigh. Now we're going to rotate the torso around to the bent knee. As you lift your arm up to your left arm up towards the ceiling, right hand can be on the right shin as you start to bend over towards the right, keeping that left shoulder open and the chest rotating towards the front of the room. And the palm of the hand is facing down towards the ground. You might be able to come near your ear. And then come back to center. And now rotate your torso. So now it's facing towards your straight leg. You're going to lift both hands up and then start to bring your chest forward, keeping the breastbone lifted as you start to bring your hands down to either side of your right leg. As you start to tilt forward from the hips. So keeping the chest open, the back as straight as can be. If the intention is not to come forward so much as, the intention is to come forward, but it doesn't matter how far forward you come. Both sit bones on the mat. The chest is coming towards your right leg. Your shoulders are relaxed and your head is in line with your spine. If you like, you can even hold on to your, wherever your hands reach your leg, and use that as a little more of a lever. If you want to draw forward a little more, drawing the chest forward. 2 more breaths here. And then start to rise back up. You can put your hand under your right knee and then bend it and bring your right knee back to a cross-legged position as you take your left leg out to a comfortable angle. The right sole of the foot is then nestled into the left inner thigh. So moving the torso, so it's going to be facing towards the bent knee. Start to raise your right hand up. The left hand can be leaning or resting on the left leg as you start to bend over, tilt over towards the left leg, but keeping the right shoulder open, so it's not coming down, keeping the right shoulder open by the ear, somewhat by the ear, and the chest forward, stretching all the way across the back of the right hip here and the right quadrilamborum. So breathe down into that back of the right hip, side of the right hip. And see if you can find a little more space as you breathe into the back of the hip. Two more breaths. And then you can come back to center and now turn the torso so it's somewhat facing the left leg, the outstretched leg. Bring both hands up and then start to tilt forward from your hips, bringing your hands to either side of your left leg. Your chest is coming forward, but your chest is open, back is straight, toes are pointed up. As you start to have the intention of moving forward over the left leg. Trying to keep the back as straight as possible. So wherever is comfortable for you, just come to that edge of, you don't want to go into pain and you don't want to have, you don't want to be bending your back. So just come forward here. The neck is in line, the head is in line with the spine. And then you can start to rise back to center. And for this next pose, it's going to be a little bit of a yin pose, which means we're going to hold it for a little longer than normal. If you have blocks, that'll be great. If you don't, you can still do it without blocks. I'll show it with and without. But we're going to take both legs out away from you. So in a triangular position, See if you can lift up your hips again and find the sit bones making contact. So take that flesh away from your buttocks. Find the sit bones making contact with the mat. Now ground the legs down into the earth and have the toes, knees pointed towards the ceiling, toes pointed towards the ceiling. Lengthen up through the sit bones. And if you have blocks, I actually need to have this on a really tall setting. So you can adjust them to wherever you are, but we're going to be coming forward and our forehead is going to be resting on the blocks. If you don't have blocks, you're just going to come forward as far as possible and then let your head lower down towards the mat. Oh, I do have to get my timer so we can set this for a nice 1.5 minutes. So this will give us time to, it'll give us time for the muscles to lengthen and to relax, and you can feel it in all different muscles. So it gives you time to really go through your body and feel what's tight and breathe into that. So there's no racing, there's no rushing through this, it's all relaxing. So I'll get us into the position and then I'll start the timer. So once again, feet pointed up, legs extended out away from you, knees pointed up, legs are grounded, and we're going to be hinging at the hip joint. So hinging forward, but keeping a straight back, just like we were doing before, and keeping the chest open. You want to maintain the distance between the bottom of the sternum and the top of the pubic bone. So once again, the intention is to move forward. It is not to get the head down onto the mat, just to move forward. You can have your hands on your legs as they start to slide down. And because we're going to hold this for 1.5 minutes, it's best for you not to come too far forward so that you're feeling any pain or any too much stress. When you come to that edge of where you're feeling really comfortable, you're open, you've come forward as far as you can, then you can either set your blocks and then rest your head. So adjust the blocks to whatever height you need. So if you don't have blocks, you'll just then lower the crown of the head down towards the mat. And we'll be doing this for like I said, 1.5 minutes. So use this time to really feel all the different muscles, and here we go. So feel those muscle fibers start to relax, start to lengthen. You might be feeling them more in the inner thigh and groin area. You might be feeling them across the lower back. But wherever you feel the resistance, take a nice deep breath into that area and exhale and relax. Taking the breath down into that area that's tight, as though your breath could go there. You need to move to make any adjustments to make it more comfortable. You can do that for yourself. If you feel like you're even getting a little more relaxation, you might be able to drop your head a little lower, your forehead lower. Oh my goodness, that 1.5 minutes went really fast. Okay, so when you're ready, just start to rise back up to vertical. You can take your hands under your knees, help to bend your knees and bring your feet back to center. Okay, now we should take a moment there just to feel that you can rest back, take your Feet out in front of you, rest back on your hands. The pause is as important as the pose. So feel all that activation of the inner thigh muscle, groin, low back. When you're ready, we're going to come over to tabletop. If you have blocks, have your blocks at the top of your mat. So coming into tabletop, knees are under the hips, the wrists are under the shoulders, the creases of the wrists are facing forward, the fingers are spread wide, reaching up through the arm bones to the shoulders, and then have a slight, bring your belly button in towards your spine and a little bit up to protect your lower back. And just breathe into this table pose. You want your neck to be in line with your spine, so you can be looking a little bit forward and down. The tops of the feet, if it's comfortable for you, they can be on the mat. If you want them to be tucked under, if that's more comfortable, you can have that position also. Now we'll go into some cat-cows, warming up the spine. So starting at the tailbone, dropping the tailbone down as you take every vertebrae, rounding up towards the ceiling, all the way up until finally your head, crown of your head can release towards the mat. You can bring your forehead towards your knees to get a little bit more of a rounding of the spine. And on the next inhale, start to go in the opposite direction. The sit bones are going to come up towards the ceiling. As your back arches, as you bring your chest and heart forward through your upper arms, chest forward. And exhale, back into cow. Starting at the tailbone, every vertebrae rounding towards the ceiling. Inhaling, opening up the chest, sit bones up towards the ceiling. Exhaling to cat. And one more time, inhaling to cow. And then you can come back onto your heels. And now bring your right foot forward. So it's forming a 90-degree angle. And then just tuck your toes under, your left toes under a little bit, and take your knee, wiggle your knee back, and then release the top of the foot down onto the mat. Because we want to get a nice stretch here through the left psoas, the left hip flexors. So by taking the knee back a little, you're going to get more of a lengthening of those front thigh muscles. If you have blocks, you can even help by using your blocks, or you can be on your fingertips if you don't have blocks. It can help to raise your chest up, lifting up through the chest. Letting the hips sink down towards the earth and come forward. So very subtly letting the hips sink down and come forward. And now we're going to take our hips, we're going to take our hips back. So start to straighten the right leg, the right knee. As you start to draw the hips back, you can take the hands with you. Toes are going to come up off the mat. You're going to feel that stretch in the back of your right hamstrings here. So breathe into that tightness, the calf and the hamstring, the back of the right leg. Come forward, creep forward as you come back into a low lunge, lengthening out the hip flexors. Where we're sitting often during the day, it's really good to lengthen these out. And then Go back, slide back, toes come up as we lengthen through the hamstring. And just keep doing this, going back and forth a couple of times. Couple more times. And then when you're back towards the front of the mat, you can end here. Bring your fingers back down to the earth. Take that right knee back by the left knee. And sit back on your heels. And now we'll do it on the other side. So the left foot comes forward. Wiggle that right knee back until you feel a nice stretch all the way through the right thigh. You have the blocks, you can use them to raise your chest, or you can be on your fingertips, and then just start to drop those hips down and forward. You don't want to move the hips too far forward so that your knee is coming over your toes, but you just get a feeling, a sensation, an activation, especially in the right hip. And now we're going to start to straighten that left leg as we draw the hips back towards the back of the room. And the left toes come up off the ground. Feeling that activation along the left calf muscles, left hamstring, back of the thigh, and then forward, lifting. Now the right leg muscles are being stretched, and back again, and forward, and one more time back, and forward. And now take your blocks away to the side. If you're using the blocks, come up onto your right foot. So lift up your knee up off the mat. And then if you can just start to step that right foot forward to meet the left foot, knees are bent, coming into a forward fold. So have the knees bent, your head is reaching towards the mat. You're going to be looking out through your legs. So your feet are about hip distance apart. So the weight of your head is lengthening your spine. If you like, you can try to straighten one leg and then the other leg. If it's comfortable, you can straighten both legs, but you'll keep your hands in front of you. So you've got a little foundation there. The chest is coming towards the thighs. We're going to come into a half lift now. So your fingers are going to slide up your shins as you come into like a half table or an upside down L shape. Now you're going to be looking down towards the mat. So there's length from the tailbone through to the crown of the head, and take your shoulders back. Exhale as you bow into forward bend. Inhale, halfway lift, finding that length from tailbone to crown of head. Shoulders are drawing back. And exhale into forward bend. One more time into halfway lift. Now bend your knees, take your arms out to the side, and then come all the way up to standing into mountain pose. So standing in mountain, finding our mountain pose here, beautiful, majestic, and sturdy, and position. Hands can be by our side, or you can have the palms open in front. The shoulders to be dropped away from the ears. And then take your hands up towards the ceiling and just raise, bend your right knee and raise up, come up onto your tiptoes. And then you can bring your heel back to the floor. Now the left, come up onto your tiptoes. Bring your heel up onto the floor. If you want to try to bring, come back onto both tiptoes, or you can just do one at a time, stretching all the side of the body. And then release down towards the earth. We're going to finish up with a standing pose, crescent pose, and we're going to do it like a flow. So it's going to be a beautiful, graceful, and smooth flow. So standing at the front of the mat, you can take your left leg a nice big step backwards. Your right knee is going to be bent. Whoops, whoopsie. Losing my balance here. And to keep balance, you want your feet to be on like railroad tracks, not on a tightrope, but on railroad tracks so they're separated from each other. You can be on your heel. Bring your two sit bones to the front and square them off. So the right hip bone might go back and the left hip bone forward, so they're squaring like traffic lights. And now lift your back thigh muscle. When you've got this nice steady pose, the front foot is grounding into the mat, you can begin to raise your arms up towards the ceiling. Your tailbone is a little bit tucked. And now we're going to straighten the front leg and come up onto even more up onto your tiptoes and take your hands down by your sides. Inhale as you draw the heel down towards the back heel down towards the mat, the back thigh up towards the ceiling, bending the front knee, raising the hands up by your ears. Exhaling as you straighten the front leg, arms come down by your side and come up onto your tiptoes. Inhale, bend the front knee, draw the back heel down and thigh up as you raise your arms towards the ceiling. And then start to straighten the leg, the front leg, bring the hands to the side and come all the way up on the tiptoe. And now lean forward, bring your torso forward, bring your weight towards the front of the room as you bend the right knee and step the left knee to meet the right. Take a moment here to find your center and your balance again. Now take a big step back with the right foot. Bend in the left knee this time. I'm going to make sure that the left knee is tracking over the middle of the foot, the second and third toes. So use the inner and outer thigh muscles to keep that knee tracking over the middle of the foot. So start to find your balance, ground down into the front foot. The heel is drawing toward the back heel, drawing towards the mat as the thigh lifts towards the ceiling. The tailbone is a little bit tucked. Hip bones are straight forward as you raise your arms up by your ears, inhaling. Exhaling, the hands can float down to your sides as you straighten the front leg and come up on the back tiptoes. Inhaling, bending the front knee, heel down towards the back, heel down towards the floor, raising the arms up by your sides, up by your ears. Shoulders are dropping down into the shoulder socket. And then straighten the front leg, hands down to the side, come up onto your tiptoes. We'll just do this 2 more times. Bending the front knee, arms come up by your ears, back heel comes towards the ground, and then straightening the front knee, coming up on your back tiptoes, hands down to your side. One more time, inhaling as you bend the knee, arms to the side, up to the ears, and exhaling as you lengthen up. And then bend the front knee, lean forward, and take a nice big step forward, back into mountain. And now you can find your way, with getting towards the end of the practice. So find your way down onto your backs. If you have a pillow, you can rest your head at the back of your head on a pillow. If you have a blanket, you can have it rolled up under your knees, or you can have it over you for comfort and warmth as you start to lay down into corpse pose or shavasana. Your legs can be separated, your arms away from your body, taking up as much room as you need to feel fully relaxed. You can have your palms facing up or down. The neck is long, the shoulders are flat on the mat, feet are splayed out to the sides, and close your eyes. And let go. Let the whole body relax. Let the weight of the body drop into the earth, and feel the unconditional support of the earth underneath you. You don't have to hold anything up. The earth is there for you. The front body drops down into the back body. The back body drops down into the earth. The body melts like a stick of butter in a frying pan, letting all the edges soften. And let your breath come easy and uninterrupted. And I am going to leave you in Shavasana. Stay there for as long as you like and as long as feels good for you. And thank you so much for joining me in practice today. Namaste.